On the matter will reveal the evidence to back his claim.
I'm gonna play some
conspiring to put me in jail and to confiscate all the assets that I had.
Mr. Palmer won't refer the matter to the Crime and Misconduct Commission or police because he doesn't trust them.
see if I'm still there.
From late tonight, Jess Feeney will be acting premier, in charge of a government diminished by 3 but still with a massive majority and still claiming to be getting on with the job. For example, just this afternoon, the government has passed a bill to simplify the bulk water system in the southeast and to reduce the bill to allow councils who don't have good right of way water to make their own decisions about that. But still, as Parliament rises for the year, it will be descent in the ranks that the LNP will be hoping to put behind them. David? Thanks, Chris. Chris O'Brien there outside Parliament House. In Canberra, the parliamentary year has also come to an end, and it was bitter to the very close. Tony Abbott and Julia Gillard went blow for blow in their final question time before the election year. He called the Prime Minister dodgy, incompetent and untrustworthy. She said Mr Abbott lacked decency and should shut up. Chief Political Correspondent Mark Simpson reports.
The last sitting. Traditionally a day of goodwill and more words. Sometimes.
The Leader of the Opposition is drowning in a sea of fleas and tears.
This is not about gender.
Just a second.
This is about character. And Prime Minister, you have failed the character test.
The temperature started soaring when Tony Abbott raised the stakes, accusing Julia Gillard of acting unlawfully.
It's in breach of the law, I would think, but it's certainly very, very unethical.
He's referring to Julia Gillard's conduct as a lawyer 2 decades ago. It's emerged she wrote to West Australian authorities, vouching for the entity that later became a slush fund.
I think her position is entirely untenable. If the Prime Minister had any respect for the Parliament, for the Australian public, for the Labor caucus, she would resign as Prime Minister today.
So right now I'm
Labor
in
MPs insist Julia Gillard did nothing unusual, let alone illegal.
So this is what I was gonna do. No. Oh. Well, here we go.
This isn't a smoking gun.
I say crab instead of crab.
In Parliament, Julia Gillard tried to turn the tables, appropriating an opposition tactic
I move that so much of standing and sessional orders be suspended.
to issue a blunt challenge.
This morning he went out and accused me of a crime. Back it up or shut up.
She has been involved in unethical conduct and possibly unlawful behaviour.
Labor's wanted to lure the opposition leader into the fray all week. He deliberately toned down his delivery.
At the very least, a dodgy and unethical lawyer. She's been an incompetent and an untrustworthy Prime Minister.
I did nothing wrong in this matter, and no amount of fleas and smear from the opposition will ever change those facts.
Let's have the judicial inquiry that will finally get to the bottom of this whole squalid affair.
Frankly failed to put up. Now he should be shutting up.
The roles a fitting finale to a brutal 2012. Parliament's been dominated by allegations of sleaze and sexism. Both major parties are promising a more enlightened election year. Mark Simpkin, ABC News, Canberra.
Sunshine Coast teenager Daniel Walton could be laid to rest in the next week, 9 years after he disappeared. The state coroner is releasing his remains to the Morton family after his accused killer, Brett's Peter Cowan, cleared the way. Francine Norton reports.
They've counted every day without their son.
Daniel's remains were discovered 467 days ago. He's been not in the family's unit for 3,280 days.
Now they're getting him back so they can start planning a funeral.
We don't see any value in re-examining or retesting any of those items of the life plan.
We treat this as no joy, that announcement.
The surprise development followed testimony by a third scientific expert who believed bones found in bushland last year belonged to the Sunshine Coast teenager.
That doesn't mean any facts are admitted or that there won't be challenge taken to some of the evidence that's been given.
The Morecambes had been anticipating more red tape before getting their son's remains back, but the state coroner quickly made an order releasing them to funeral directors. Now the Morecambes say a funeral may be held in the next 7 to 10 days.
The sooner the better, is definitely the family said.
The court also heard from bus passenger Fiona Falcock, who said she saw a man standing behind a boy under the Peel Mountain Road overpass on the day Daniel Morecambe disappeared in 2003. She said she felt sorry for the boy because he tried to hail the bus but it didn't stop. Francine Norton, ABC News, Brisbane.
Severe droughts, extreme heat, and a record Arctic ice melt. That sums up 2012. The latest snapshot of the planet's weather said the warming trend is continuing, and this has been one of the hottest years on record. The United Nations says it's yet another wake-up call
Drop
for
their
global
compass.
action. Here's the ABC's environment reporter, Sarah Clark.
Droughts, floods and extreme heat. 2012 has delivered record-breaking temperatures in Europe and nearly 15,000 daily records across the United States alone.
Definitely the warming trend is continuing, and it makes natural sense because we have significant amount of greenhouse in the atmosphere.
And the world's chief meteorological organisation says 2012 is one of the top 10 on record.
If you just look at the monthly temperature trend, January to October, you can see that it already falls within the range of the 10 warmest.
In Australia, it was an average year. Warm and dry conditions were offset by an early wet start. But across the globe, there's been serious flooding in China, the UK and Africa. And Sandy topped off a year where the number of hurricanes in the Atlantic was above average for a third year in a row.
We've had severe climate and weather events all over the world, and everyone is beginning to understand that that is exactly the future we're going to be looking at if they don't do something about it.
As for the Arctic, the Bureau says there's been a record sea ice melt.
The melting of the ice was much bigger than in previous year. It is the record melting of the Arctic ice.
As nations gather for the latest round of global climate talks, the United Nations is hoping this latest weather report card may be a trigger for change. Sarah Clark, ABC News.
Back home, parts of Australia swathed at record-breaking temperatures today. The Victorian town of Olean hit a scorching 46 degrees. That's the state's highest temperature on record. In Melbourne, the morning sun forewarned of a hot day ahead. The temperature nudged 40 degrees in the city, with many flocking to the beach to cool down. Elephants at the Sydney Zoo are also keen to stay submerged. There were fire bans in many parts, and in Mildura, the mercury hit 45.5.
A little warm, a little bit too warm. We've got a bit down here at the rivers and actually a bit.
In South Australia, Moomba also hit 46 degrees, Redmond 45. Meanwhile, the clean-up's continuing in Western Australia after severe weather lashed Perth and the state's south. One man died, and emergency services received more than 200 calls for help. Police say it's the biggest theft of credit card data in Australian history. The details of 30,000 people were stolen and used to buy more than $30 million worth of goods worldwide. The fraud was traced to Romania, where several members of the gang have now been arrested. Red Castle reports.
It's a major security breach. Credit card details of 500,000 Australians were left vulnerable after dozens of Australian businesses were hacked.
From this, approximately 30,000 are confirmed to have been used in fraudulent transactions amounting to approximately $30 million.
This is a very, very widespread compromise involving all the states and territories of Australia.
Operating out of Romania, the gang remotely accessed the computers of 100 Australian retail outlets, including petrol stations and grocery stores. They then used the banking details of customers to create bogus credit cards, which were used all over the world, predominantly in Europe.
Those credit card details may still be out in the environment, and obviously the banking industry will continue to monitor and refund any money that is spent against those cards.
A large number of banks and credit unions were affected. The extent to which any individual institution was affected would depend on how many customers they had who were using the retail outlets.
Police in Romania detained 16 people over the fraud, including an international wrestler known as the Carpathian Bear. Authorities here are confident the main players have been arrested and the security gap closed.
During those attacks, there was a vulnerability within the Australian retail sector. That vulnerability has since been patched, and we haven't had any recent rise in Australia.
Police and the Banking Association say the Australian credit card environment is now much more robust than it was before this fraud, but they've reminded businesses of their responsibility to have up-to-date security. Lee Casbin, ABC News.
Residents in Gladstone have been put on alert about a chemical spill from an alumina refinery. The toxic red mud substance was released on Tuesday night during a mechanical breakdown. The plant says the red spray isn't harmful to human health, but there are warnings it could cause skin irritations. William Rollo filed this report from Gladstone.
Authorities are investigating how a toxic waste byproduct was released from Queensland Alumina's Gladstone refinery into the residential suburb of Sun Valley. It was revealed by the ABC this morning. Residents received this letter, which says the toxic waste product red mud was discharged on Tuesday night after a gas sensor failed. Red mud is a byproduct from the alumina refining process. The Queensland Department of Environment and Heritage Protection warns it can cause skin and respiratory irritation. Queensland Alumina says it poses no health risk because the concentration of chemicals was too low. Last month, the company cut another rock support role to the site. The Australian Workers' Union is alarmed by the incident. It says it's a wake-up call for the company and it needs to invest more in maintaining the aging plant. Environmental authorities are investigating the extent of the release. It's not known how far the red mud spread.
Here we go, G.
Overseas twin car bombings have killed at least 34 people in the Syrian capital Damascus. The blasts rocked a pro-regime neighbourhood, predominantly Christian and Druze, in the city's southeast. One bomb went off in a crowded street, its impact bringing debris crashing down on cars. The other targeted a city square. There's been no claim of responsibility, but state media has blamed terrorists. Rebels have released footage they say is a crafting table, which they shot down in the northern province of Aleppo. Syrian uprising is now
This is the end of episode 1. Goodbye, my friend.